Hello, and welcome to my first installment of a series that I want to create documenting my fitness journey. So, this is going to be the prologue or chapter 0 of the fitness journey that I have been on. So, this is not going to be where I really have started, but it's more so a story for me to tell that's going to lead into pretty much the first chapter, if that's what you want to call it. So, as the title of this video says, this is about how I lost 40 pounds in 90 days. So, it all started back, this is in 2023. So in February, specifically, I remember the day. So it was February 14th when this whole realization had started. So just to give some background info, for about, I want to say probably between 2020 up until this point in February of 2023, I had gotten up to 200 pounds, my heaviest being 205 pounds. And for reference, I'm 5'11", and when I had started this, I was 21 years old, so this was like 2.5 years ago. So ultimately what had happened was I knew, like, I was unhappy with my weight. I knew that I had gotten much bigger than I had before. It's not like I was obese. I was like pretty dead center in that overweight category. But prior to that, I had always been pretty much in between, if not a little bit like below in the average BMI. I have been pretty athletic. I never really exercised, but I was always doing some active stuff. So I was never overweight, but pretty much when COVID hit, probably a lot of people had this problem. I had gained some weight, and it was probably due to COVID and all other situational things happening in my life at the time. But regardless, I specifically remember on February 14th, I had come to the realization where I really was like, I need to make a change. I remember I had actually kind of embarrassing, but it was Valentine's Day, and I had went to eat at a buffet with my girlfriend, and I was disgusted with how much I ate. And I was just like, I need to do something about this. So, and that next day is when I started. And essentially what I had done is, to be pretty blunt with it, I starved myself. Not eating at all, but eating very, very little. So I didn't track any calories until about a month, actually exactly a month later. March 14th is when I actually started tracking, like, how much am I actually eating? I knew it was like barely anything, but I had estimated that I was probably eating about 1,200 calories, which is really, really, really low. Like, you should not be doing that. It's just really not a good idea. But I'll get on to why it was a bad idea later. For now, I'm just going to be talking about how I did it. So I was essentially in a huge calorie deficit, and I was really only eating like 2 meals a day. That first month, I remember, was super, super difficult. I was just getting really agitated because obviously I wanted to eat. I remember I would be drinking seltzer, watching YouTube videos of people eating. I still love doing that shit. You know, watching Eric the Electric or Beer Meets Food or whoever, just eating big quantities of really unhealthy food. That to me actually kind of helped. I don't really know why, but I was still just pissed. Like, you know, obviously I was starving essentially. But when I started tracking my calories, I was eating anywhere between 12 to 1,500 calories, which for my, I don't really know what my maintenance would have been at this time, but let's just put this into perspective. So I'll give you some numbers for the timeline, right? So within the first week, so not even when I started tracking calories, within the first week, I had lost 9 pounds. I went from my starting weight 205 to 196. So that was a huge drop. Obviously, a lot of it was probably just water. But regardless, that's how my first week went. Second week, I had lost another 4 pounds, going down to 192. And then that third week, I had lost 5.6 pounds, going down to 186.4. And then all the way down to week 4, which is when I had started tracking my calories, I had lost another 1.6 pounds. And so to talk about what I did with the calories, so I was eating anywhere between 12 and 1,500 calories. And the one thing that I think made this possible to do is that one day a week I would have a cheat day or a cheat meal. I mean, I would just call it a cheat day because I would go over my calories. I'd probably eat somewhere between like 3,000 and 4,000 calories for one of those days. So maybe it averaged out that maybe it was like 1,700 or 1,800 calories with that cheat day. But yeah, so that's when I started tracking the calories. Now, in terms of exercise, I had gone on a couple of runs, like it was like 2 or 3 days a week, but it was never really anything. It was never consistent. So long story short, like just for about a month, maybe two, I'll just say like a month and a half, I was trying to run. Pretty much other than that, no exercise, no other lifestyle changes other than eating less. So moving on to month 2, let's go back to how much I lost. So into that week 5, going into month 2, I had lost another 4.8 pounds. And then week 6, I lost another 3.6 pounds. Week 7, another 2.6 pounds. Week 8, another 2 pounds. And I believe that puts us at the start of month 2. So I moved up a little bit with my calories. I had started eating no less than 1,500 calories at this point. And then as we move on, so I'll keep talking about how much I dropped. Week 9, I had dropped 1.6 pounds. Week 10, I dropped 1.8. Week 11, I had dropped another 2.8 pounds. And just to backtrack, in month 1, I had went from 205 to, we'll just say 185. So 20 pounds lost in the first month. And then month 2, I had dropped from, let's just say 185 to 171. So month 2, I dropped 14 pounds. And then after the second month, I had moved my calories up again a little bit slightly, eating somewhere between 17 to 1900 calories. And I still would have a single day out of the week where I would have a cheat day. And sometimes it would be 2 days. It never really made that much of a difference if I did do those 2 days. It really didn't in the end. And then to get to the end of when I reached my end goal, so going from, we'll call this month 3 because obviously 90 days, I went from 171 to the 165, which that was my goal because that's how much I weighed roughly in high school from what I was able to remember. So that last month I had lost 6 pounds. So since then, since I hit my goal weight on May 8th, I was able to stay at that weight. And actually down the line, I dropped as low as 160. So I was floating anywhere between 160, maybe a little above 165. Yeah. So after about May 24th, I began being a little more lenient with my calories. I was eating anywhere between 2,000 and 3,000. Sometimes it would be a little below the 2,000, sometimes it'd be a little above the 3,000. So at that point I was like, okay, I reached my goal, whatever. But here's the part of the story where I explain why this was not a good idea, why you shouldn't do this, and why I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who is trying to lose weight. So number one, one of the most important things that I would say for why this is a bad idea is because it's just way too drastic of a change. I don't know how many calories I was eating in order to get to 205 pounds. But if I had to guess, it was probably somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 calories. Just an estimate. But that change from maybe, let's just say it's 4,000. From eating 4,000 calories plus to then eating 1,200 calories, that is a massive, massive change. And the likelihood that you stick with that and you don't bounce back and gain any of the weight, it's just very likely that you're going to gain the weight back. Number two, the reason why I would not recommend this is because I implemented no healthy habits within this. I didn't implement any workout scheduling. I didn't implement any of that. I tried to run, but beyond that, no weight training, no not even body weight exercises, none of that. So a lot of this weight could have been from losing muscle too. Chances are I probably did, but no healthy habits along with exercise, also no healthy eating habits. I was literally just eating it was just calories in, calories out. It didn't matter what it was just calories. No, I wasn't prioritizing any kind of protein or anything like that. I was probably not even getting near 100 grams of protein in a day. I just didn't even think of that. And the last reason I could think of for why I would not recommend this is that, it kind of goes along with the fact that it's very drastic, is that this was just too much weight lost in too small of a time frame. So I averaged over the course of 3 months, losing half a pound a day, essentially, a little bit more than that, I think. But pretty much those are all the reasons, the main reasons why I would say this was just a bad idea. And the most important part of the story, which I had said with how you're very likely to bounce back, is that I did end up bouncing back. So I kept my weight at 165, probably at least up until like August, maybe. So from like May to August, I think. And then after that, I started gaining weight and I got all the way back up to 195. So that happened over the span of like 9 months, I want to say. So it was very gradual and I didn't realize it. But like I said, with no implementation of healthy eating habits like prioritizing protein or just the types of food being a little bit healthier, no exercise, just purely lowering your calories by a fuck ton, it's just not sustainable, and I would learn that later. So where does this put me now? So my next story I'm going to start, which will be the official chapter 1 of this series, is me starting my fitness journey back up, but doing it the smarter way, starting from the 195 that I said that I gained when I finished this and kept the weight off and was at 165. Like when I went back up to 195 and wanted to make a change there, that's what's going to be next for my next story. So yeah, I think that's all I have for this first little chapter 0 prologue. So yeah, that's my story. And stay tuned for the actual first chapter of this series that I want to have. I really do like these this format. It's pretty easy to do. And honestly, this video shouldn't be too long. So yeah, it's not going to be too long of a video, and hopefully I can get some people to watch. I'm really just doing this for myself. Like if other people happen to see it, that's cool. But yeah, stay tuned and I'll see you next time.